Good evening. The League of Women Voters of Pocatello welcomes you to our Meet the Candidates Forum, featuring the candidates for Pocatello City Council Seats 4 and 5. My name is Terry Kaufman, and I'm the moderator of tonight's forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization which seeks to promote active participation of citizens in government. The League neither supports nor opposes candidates for office at any level. Recordings of this event may not be used without the express written approval of the League. No part of a League-sponsored video production may be used in advertising or in any way to promote a candidate. The League will only allow audio-video of this event to be broadcast in its entirety. The format for tonight will be as follows. I will call on each candidate, and they will each have 1 minute for their introduction. Then they will have 1.5 minutes to answer each question. Questions were compiled and sent to them by the Pocatello League. We will not be taking questions from the audience this evening, and viewers will be muted. Finally, at the end, the candidates will have 2 minutes to give a closing statement. I would also like to add that 2 of the candidates, Lydia Noble and John Ruth, who are running for office, were unable to make it tonight, even though they had wanted to, because they are having health issues. So with that, we will start to have the candidates introduce themselves in 1 minute. Please introduce yourself and share with the voters what prompted you to run for this office and what experience you bring to this position. We will start with Linda Lerick.
Okay, I'm Linda Lurick, and I'm currently serving in seat 5. And I'd like to thank the League for holding this forum tonight, and thank everybody who's attending. I'm completing my first term on the council, and it's been an honor to serve you. Together, I think we've moved this city in a good direction and accomplished a lot of good things. During my first term, I built relationships and trust by listening to and working closely with community members, leaders, and staff. And because I want to keep moving in that right direction and to be part of helping Pocatello realize our full potential, I'm running for a second term. My years of professional experience and dedication to service have prepared me to provide strong leadership based on thorough research, fairness, common sense, and empathy. I've been a humanities professor with about 2 decades of higher education teaching and research, most recently at ISU. I've been a designer and project manager overseeing multi-million-dollar projects and budgets, and I've been a retail business manager and buyer. And I also serve on multiple volunteer leadership positions. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathleen Lewis.
Good evening. My name is Kathleen Lewis, and thank you for asking me to attend and share my thoughts and ideas. I decided to run for office to share my knowledge and experience with our community. I was executive director of the Southeast Idaho Council of Governments for 20 years, overseeing economic development, small business loans, and aging programs for 7 counties and 30 cities in our region. I helped many communities secure millions of dollars for both economic development and infrastructure improvements in this region. I served on the Pocatello Planning and Zoning Commission for 8 years, the Marshall Public Library Board of Trustees for 10, and represent our region on the Idaho Transportation Board's Public Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh Mansfield.
Good evening, and I'd also like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting on this event tonight. I'm a Pocatello native who was born and raised here and came back with my family in the belief that the Pocatello is one of the best places in the world to live. I currently work in healthcare administration and handle everything from budgeting to human rights and hiring. But at the very core of the reason why I chose to run Sorry, it says that the host muted me.
Josh, that might have been me. Do you have two cameras open, two monitors?
I do.
Then that's it. I muted one and I'll bet it impacted both. My apology.
Do I need to change something?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
I am sorry for the interruption.
That's okay. About how much time should I have left? Okay, I'll continue then. At my job in healthcare administration, I cover everything from budgeting to hiring and human resources. That gives me broad experience in a variety of fields that the city council has to address. But the reason that I chose to run for office is based in my basic philosophy of government. That government's responsibility is to do things for people that they otherwise would not be able to do for themselves. Things like infrastructure, emergency services, or other amenities are at the fundamental obligation of what a government owes to its people. And I promise you that as a city council member, I will always serve you to ensure that you have access to those basic needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Miller?
Good evening. I would like to also thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on tonight and for inviting me to come and share my views. My name is Bill Miller. I am running for seat 5 on the City Council of Pocatello. I feel what I bring to the table in this is that I have been a resident of Pocatello for over 50 years. I run 4 different small businesses here in town, so I understand budgeting. I understand looking to future means so that I can continue to keep those running. I have been an umpire for over 30 years, from sports, from younger children, from 8 years old, all the way up to senior citizens. I am currently a coordinator for the senior games here in town and have been for 13 years. I understand the philosophies of trying to create things, jobs and things here in town so that everyone is available and everyone is looked after, from the children all the way up to senior citizens. I am grateful to be a member of this community. I see the taxes going up, and that's one of the reasons why I'm running, is because I think I can do a better job on the city council than the people that are on the city council right now. Thank you.
All right, now we'll start the questions. I didn't mention before, we started in alphabetical order with the introduction, and we will be rotating through the candidates. So first question to Kathleen Lewis. The Pocatello finance policy to develop a city budget includes a list for capital investments and infrastructure. What priorities will you focus on funding? How do you think the budget planning process can be improved? And how will you ensure our tax money is used wisely? So we'll start with Kathleen.
Thank you. I will focus on capital investment in infrastructure, such as sewer in the Johnny Creek area, and mitigation of water contamination, particularly the plume flowing from the landfill. It's important to have a capital improvement plan, which identifies priorities, projects, and costs. This will allow the city to build a solid budget in response to these priorities and identified needs. I believe budget planning begins with dialogue between departments and the city council. A longer process allowing time to ask questions and receive pertinent information would be helpful. Education of all members of the council is critical, helping council members to understand and properly evaluate revenue and expenditures. We should have the ability to ask questions and get honest answers. Listening to department heads and also seeking input from our employees as well as citizens will improve the budgeting process. I will ensure money is spent wisely by educating myself on the priorities of our citizens and monitoring spending of the budget. I will seek detailed information on budget expenditures to help me understand and evaluate how monies are allocated and spent. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh Mansfield?
In February, we begin the budgeting process when department heads sit down and are required to go through each of their staff members to project salary growth for the next year. In doing so, they are oftentimes left with a projected budget of only 10 to 20% of what they began with after payroll costs are accounted for. This operational budget then, they are told to just continue to tighten the belt when other services increase. If your power bill goes up, you need to find other areas to cut. The problem, though, is that when we begin to tell city departments that their operational budgets must continue to become tighter, more lean, and more efficient, then they move into survival mode, where they do the very much that they can to just ensure that they're doing the bare minimum of what they are required of their department. The problem, though, is that when we actually turn to invest in these departments and ensure that they have the necessary operational and staffing funding, that they can then promote not only the interests that their department normally prioritizes, but then they look to give back to the city as well. Look to the fire department, who have long asked for additional equipment and staff so that they could participate in wildland deployment. Wildland deployment, for example, has raised the city of Idaho Falls nearly $4 million in just 3 years. If the fire department was fully staffed, they would be able to do the same at similar levels, ensuring that we not only are able to protect the Pocatello, but also give back and earn increased revenue. Diversifying revenue models decrease the burden on taxpayers and ensures that our city is able to thrive, but they can only do so when given the necessary resources to perform at their best.
Thank you. Bill Miller?
Thank you. It's important to examine finances, balance budget, and find ways to spend less. We must also examine our city's sustainability and creating strategies that lengthen and strengthen a sound economy and that builds upon existing assets in our community. I believe the budget process needs to be greatly improved. It will be one of my main focuses. I'm willing to examine all expenditures in the city budget to ensure that that the expenses that are spent are for the best interest of the city, and keep the monies local and not have finances going out of the city without proper mitigation. In other words, if a local business can make the same services as someone from out of town, we should be looking in town to keep those finances in our grasp so that our city is strengthened because of the expenditures, not going out of town and especially out of state.
Thank you. Linda Larick?
Hi. I want to start by saying that we do have detailed departmental service reports for all of our departments, and they all have 5-year plans that include priority lists for capital investments and infrastructure. We also had our department heads this year work together to develop a priority list for the entire city of capital improvement projects. These are not things where we're in dire straits. They're just things that we would like to do and in some cases need to do. But there's nothing that is, an emergency situation on that list. I also want to say that we are in a very strong financial position at the city. Through careful budgeting over the last several years, we've gotten ourselves into a good position. We have healthy reserves, including excess reserves that are specifically there to be used for capital improvement projects. One of my top priorities, because there's many things that I would like to see us accomplish, but I will say one of my top priorities on the list is one that Kathleen Lewis mentioned, and that's getting certain areas of our city, for example, Johnny Creek, onto city sewer. And figuring out the best mechanism to do that. We're looking at an LID for that area as a way to fund the project, but it's a way to protect our aquifer and our groundwater from contaminants, primarily from coming from septic systems. So that's a top priority for me. As far as the budget process, I have to say, for my first 2 years on the council, we had a very effective process. It worked really well. For my second 2 years, it has become very problematic. I think people felt they needed to fix it and they changed it, and it change is not always a good thing. I think this wasn't for the better. So my suggestion would be that we go back to the process we
Thank you.
used 2 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. In 2019, Mayor Blatt and the City Council approved a resolution that committed the City of Pocatello to, and I quote, clean energy, conserving resources, and increasing energy efficiency, and authorized a task force to, quotes again, further the goals of the resolution. How will you support the resolution and task force if you are elected? And we will start with Josh Mansfield.
I think there are a few steps that we can take in order to promote this task force. The first of which is I believe we could utilize it to create partnerships between the city and local companies to encourage the use of green technology. For example, when it's time to replace city vehicles, we do so with hybrid or electric cars provided by local dealers. Or, in order to minimize the energy bill and the carbon footprint of City Hall, we look at investing in green energy sources, such as solar panels, that can allow the city to not only become energy self-reliant, but also decrease overall carbon footprint from our own city. There's something bigger, though, that I think has a great capacity for growth here in Pocatello, and that is offering TIF districts or tax reductions for large manufacturing companies who produce green energy infrastructure, who actually produce the solar panels or the vehicles, for example. By bringing those kind of companies here to Pocatello and offering them the kind of incentives to do so, we do two things. First, we begin to create blue-collar jobs in manufacturing that have long defined large parts of Pocatello and ensure that people have access to good-paying jobs that may be blue-collar in nature. But we also expand the opportunity for jobs like civil, mechanical, electrical, or computer engineering, who all come from Idaho State University and then stay in Pocatello and invest their resources in this city. By showing that Pocatello is dedicated and committed to ensuring that we are a green energy city, we have the potential to create jobs and growth in a thriving sector in a way that benefits not just our energy footprint, but also our citizens.
Thank you. Bill Miller?
Hello. Okay. Let's see. I don't know which one I want. 3. Okay, first of all, I would examine this task force and the results for improvement that they've had since 2019 when they were first given that opportunity. If their results are a benefit to this community, then I would support the continuation of their work. If their results have not been beneficial, then I would recommend that the other avenues be explored. Some of these green energy are not good solutions. Even though a lot of people say they are, they don't bring the results or the required things that we want for this city. So therefore, everything must be examined. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Lurick?
Well, I'm obviously very in favor of moving us towards a clean energy future. I'm actually the one who drafted this resolution and brought it to the council. So this is one of the initiatives that I accomplished worked on in my first year on council and managed to get passed in my second year. And it established the task force. What happened at that point is right after we passed the resolution, COVID hit. So as far as the progress that the task force has made, there was about a year where really nothing happened. We had other priorities that just kind of took precedence over this. So it did get off to a slow start because of that. But now a task force has been formed. They have been meeting. They're working on ideas and projects and things to come and propose to the council. We've had one update so far, and we should be getting another one fairly soon. But I support any ideas and projects that they come to us with that are feasible, that are things that we can do. I believe in investing in moving towards clean and renewable energy. I also believe in increasing our energy efficiency, which was very much part of the resolution. The city is already doing a lot of things in terms of energy efficiency. Oh, sorry, I saw that I'm supposed to stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathleen Lewis?
Thank you. First, I would take time to discover what the task force has already established and identified as strategies. How often are they meeting? And I think Linda Lurick already answered some of those questions. Do the suggestions and strategies have cost estimates and timelines attached to them so that they can be incorporated into the budgeting and implementation process? The other thing that I think would be very valuable would be to identify these types of businesses which meet clean energy, conserving resources, and increasing efficiency as priorities in targeting in our economic development strategies. Those would be the businesses I would think that we would want to outreach to. I believe clean energy is the wave of the future. We can be an example as a city by transferring some of the city fleet and buses to a clean energy source. We need to determine the initial investment, what it will be, and include this in long-range improvement plan with costs identified for budgeting. And Pocatello City Hall can be an example of more sustainable energy use. We should work with Idaho Power and Intermountain Gas in accomplishing retrofitting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Since the last election, we have seen growth in our communities that requires an increase in infrastructure development. In regard to projects such as New Day and Northgate, how would you approach the need for this growth to have a sustainable footprint? How is the city preparing and funding the infrastructure, including roads, water, sewers, and water sanitation? And we'll start with Bill Miller.
First, it is important to collaborate with developers to ensure that we develop in a manner that is fiscally responsible. It will be important to collaborate with planning and zoning and other entities to ensure that we're enhancing Pocatello and the needs of the people. We need to ensure policies and regulations do not violate private property rights. And finally, we need to look at current housing and to ensure housing costs are available for all Pocatello citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Linda Lurick.
Sorry. First, I forget to turn it off. Now I forget to turn it. Can't get it back on. So I do want to say one thing first, and that is that I believe very much in responsible, measured development and growth, not just explosive growth. I think we want to manage it and be wise about it rather than just sort of being reactive and letting it happen to us. We've seen other cities, even in Idaho, that have been, trying to play catch up and just reacting to growth. So I think we should take a very systematic, strategic approach and be responsible in managing our growth. There are a lot of mechanisms to fund growth and fund infrastructure. I believe strongly that growth should pay for growth, that you don't have the latecomers coming in and getting the benefits, and the burden is on the people who have been here for a long time. So new growth should pay for new growth, but growth should pay for growth. We have ways, Josh mentioned TIF districts. That's one funding mechanism that is a way to develop areas. There is a Northgate TIF. There are 3 others in the city that help pay for development and growth. Another thing is many of the things mentioned here: water, sewer, water sanitation. Those things are enterprise funds, so they're fee generated. And I will stop there.
Thank you. Kathleen Lewis.
Well, I believe that the land use map is a great tool in projecting where growth can best happen. I'm a proponent of evaluating the use of infill and of existing sites first. We need to address cost and impact of infrastructure extension in determining where growth occurs. Our water capacity is a great concern. DEQ should be involved early on in discussion of growth and expansion. Do we have the capacity to provide necessary infrastructure, be it water, sewer, fire, and police protection, streets, etc.? Preparing a strategic plan based on the comprehensive plan would help guide growth and target our best uses of resources. Thank you.
Josh Mansfield?
There are really two components to infrastructure, the first of which is the private sector, and this is something that Linda mentioned. The developers are oftentimes required to pay for that growth. I think this is one of the reasons why Northgate has the capacity to be so successful, is because as the developer has not only paid for this growth, but they've done so in a way that has projected the long-term implications of what the Northgate development can and should be. We should encourage developers to continue to be forward-thinking as that growth continues. But where then does that leave the public sector? Well, I also agree with Kathleen Lewis when she talks about the infill services, because not only do we decrease the impact on the city for development costs, but we also take advantage of vacant lots that both beautify and increase urbanization in downtown areas and take advantage of those vacant lots that otherwise would go unused. This also increases tax revenues as we create commercial taxing on those properties. But the final point in terms of infrastructure that needs development is housing. Housing for seniors, for young families who are recently graduated, and for veterans. We need to ensure that there is accessible and affordable housing for everybody. And while the city may not have a direct role in that part, they can work with developers as we see increased growth to ensure that that housing is becoming available and that it is affordable housing. We also can prioritize working with groups like NeighborWorks and facilitate the partnership between NeighborWorks and other developers to begin to ensure that Pocatello has access to affordable housing so that anybody and everybody who wants to call Pocatello home has the access to do so, and that we have the place for the people who come to work the jobs as we continue to grow and thrive.
Thank you. Next question. With the hottest and driest weather in 96 years, some western cities have rationed water and passed water ordinances. The lower Portneuf Aquifer, our sole source of drinking water, is vulnerable to contamination. What are your ideas to protect and secure our drinking water supply and our drinking water quality and quantity? Would you ensure this is included in the city's comprehensive plan? And we'll start with Linda Lurick.
Oh. There, sorry, it wasn't working. Yes, yes, and yes. So I already mentioned the main way that I think we can protect our drinking water. One of the main vulnerabilities that we have for our aquifer and our groundwater is areas of the city that are on septic, and also the plume that in our aquifer that Kathleen, I believe, mentioned earlier. So I think switching those areas on septic to sewer system is one of the best ways that we can protect our drinking water. I absolutely would like to see water protection and just, thinking about water quality and quantity. I would like to see that included in our comprehensive plan. I think that especially when we look at development, any decisions that are made about businesses coming here or new housing development needs to be done through the lens of our natural resources, and particularly our water, in terms of both quantity and quality. What impact are those businesses going to have on water? What needs do they have? Are they going to use a lot of water? Are they going to contaminate it? So we need to be mindful of when we're developing that we're protecting our water.
Thank you. Kathleen Lewis.
Thank you. First, I absolutely believe protection of our sole source aquifer should be a goal and objective in the comprehensive plan, something that it is lacking right now. And I'm hoping with the new plan development over the next 2 years we will have some strong statements to that effect. I also think working with Bannock County to mitigate the contamination plume coming from the landfill is extremely important. Planning for growth is critical, Evaluating how new construction impacts an area prior to agreeing to development should be our first step. I would work with the planning department and engineering staff in the evaluation process, as well as the Metropolitan Planning Organization and school district, to have them provide valuable insights into the types of development and the impacts of development that will have on the city. I've had contact with residents in the Satterfield area who complain of lack of water pressure. Again, that's just one instance of some issues that we're experiencing. So how will additional development impact their services? I think we need to look at the impact on the existing system as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh Mansfield?
I think that all the solutions thus far proposed on this subject are incredibly important and valuable. I'd like to offer a few of my own. The first of which is an aquifer recharging efforts. That as we take fresh water and inject them into our aquifer, we reduce the toll that our city pulls on the aquifer in ensuring the longevity of our water source. Additionally, we have taken efforts, and I would continue to do so, of decreasing water usage as a city. Not only does this have a tangible impact on the water usage of our overall city and community, but I also believe that it's the moral thing to do, that if we were ever to ask citizens to reduce or to monitor their water usage, then we as the city have to be willing to do so first and foremost. But perhaps the most important, and this is in the spirit of the Kathleen Lewis's comments, are that we have to ensure that not only is the city council working with departments to ensure and understand the impact of development on our water sources, but I believe that the environmental consulting and positions inside the city department should be available at all times so that we can always have the understanding of the environmental impact specifically on our water of any actions that the city might take. This is everything from parks and recreation to planning and zoning, because everyone has an impact on the water usage in our city. We must ensure then that every department and every facet of our city is using it responsibly and has access to the necessary information to make concerted choices and efforts at reducing their water and preserving the longevity of the water security here in this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Miller?
It's important for us to be able to protect and enhance the residents' quality of life. That includes water. Working with Bannock County Commissioners, the City of Chubbuck, and Idaho State University professionals that have been working on this problem in the past and are continuing to work on it. We need to improve relationships with them so that we can coordinate with them and with other cities who have some of the same issues that we do, and hopefully resolve this issue and protect the aquifer now and for our future. It will take a team effort. We also should maybe look into acquiring more water rights so that we can expand not only the aquifer we have, but maybe have another aquifer or other water rights to help in the problems that we may incur in the future with the growth that hopefully we will have. Thanks.
Next question. The J.R. Simplot Company's fertilizer plant and the FMC Superfund site located on the border of Bannock County are major polluters of air, soil, surface water, and groundwater in this area. What is your plan for attracting quality, environmentally sound jobs to our region for sustained economic growth? We'll start with Kathleen Lewis.
Thank you. Well, I believe that it's critical that this is a strategy as we proceed forward in our economic development efforts, that our focus and priority is on the types of businesses that will bring us clean, sustainable energy. Again, as I said previously, I believe this is the wave of the future. And by bringing these types of businesses into Pocatello or the area will help create jobs and good paying jobs and help improve the economic base of our community. So that would be my primary focus. Some of the businesses possibly could be things like a wind farm or electric battery companies, but I think those are things that we would want to explore and prioritize. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh Mansfield?
There are 3 steps that I would take in order to help promote green jobs. The first is we need to ensure that companies here who are already in Pocatello are able to become more environmentally friendly. Simplot at FMC, for example, very large corporations, have already taken enormous steps to eliminate water and soil pollution. We should continue to work in partnership in conjunction with them to encourage and help them to do so further. We also need to offer grants for small businesses. If we're going to ask local business owners to try and become more environmentally friendly, we need to find ways to decrease the impact that has on their company to ensure that they're able to do so without losing revenue for them and their families. The second point that's important, though, is that we need to continue to attract the correct types of jobs. There are plenty of candidates in the races that are before you who argue that we should decrease taxes to increase business. I tell you that we shouldn't just increase any business, though. We need to increase those that pay well, that ensure longevity in terms of the fields that they're bringing, and also decrease the environmental impact here in Pocatello. I mentioned TIF districts as a mechanism of doing so in a previous question. The final point, though, that's critical is that we need to ensure that the city is an active participant in the education of its citizens about the importance of environmentalism. Everyone must be on the same page when we understand the needs of the environmental side of our city and its functions, so that we can continue to work forward and develop solutions together that are both sustainable and environmentally friendly for our business owners, for our citizens, for our community. And in doing so, we can become a green city that is financially prosperous. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Miller.
In order to attract environmentally safe employers, we will have a major impact on our economy. We first need to get to a lower tax base so that these types of businesses are willing and excited to bring their company and their assets to our community. One asset that we do have is Idaho State University right here in our city. They graduate educated individuals every year. We can work with ISU to help build up businesses we currently already have, as well as bring businesses that graduates would be willing to work for. Also, I would seek out businesses that match our community's values and strengths. The pandemic has showed us that we are too independent on foreign products. A renaissance in American manufacturing is necessary and has already begun. Pocatello is a major interstate highway and a railroad hub. We need to utilize those assets and bring companies in here that a lot of the infrastructure and everything is already in place. I think we need to get back to the things of made in America, and maybe we should start with made in Pocatello. Thank you.
Linda Lyric.
Fair. I'm going to go back to our comp plan for a minute, our comprehensive plan. I think that's one of our most important tools here with regard to this question. It's through the comprehensive plan that we establish as a city what our goals, our philosophy, our strategies are for growth and development. The council itself doesn't do economic development, but we do lay the groundwork, and we can establish the philosophy and goals for that. And we also review the codes and the processes and the things that make it possible and support it. But we work with other economic development companies and experts to actually do the development. But I think we have a lot of say in what kind of companies or businesses we want to bring here. And we need to be selective in that. We need to establish what we want in the comp plan and then follow that and look at the businesses or the companies, whether they're good for our community, whether they're good in terms of the jobs that they'll provide, but also in terms of the environmental impact. What effect will they have on our natural resources? I mentioned before, are they a business that's going to contaminate our water or use a massive quantity of water? Those kinds of things we should be looking at and make sure that it's a good fit for our community. I'll stop there.
Thank you. Last question. Recently, there have been incidents of hate crimes in our community. Pocatello's Human Relations Advisory Committee deals with these concerns and Boise has a resolution renouncing hate groups. How would you combat this problem to make our city safer for everyone? And we'll start with Josh Mansfield.
Mitigating hate crimes in our community begins with the city being a leader, with your elected officials being a leader and speaking out on intolerance and hatred in our community. I was proud to see our elected officials, as well as members of our police force, march in remembrance of the George Floyd tragedy that shook our nation years ago. I believe that we need to continue to lead the way in ensuring that diverse communities here in Pocatello feel safe and secure. There's a few ways that's necessary. The first of which is I would work with the Human Relations Advisory Committee to ensure that there's a panel where we can discuss the various issues that diverse communities here in our city face, to ensure that the solutions and problems that we are discussing are the ones that are actually problems that are facing members of our community today. I would further continue to work with the police department as they've taken efforts to create liaisons to outreach for diverse communities to ensure that they feel heard and safe in other areas of our city. And ensuring that those communities realize that they have a place here, that everybody recognizes that Pocatello is a home for them, and that their elected officials will stand up for them, then we begin to create an environment that feels safe, one that is welcoming and encouraging. Idaho State University brings an incredibly diverse group of people from across the world with different various ethnic, religious, or language backgrounds that we should cherish here in Pocatello. The only way we can do so, though, is if we continue as elected officials to ensure that they feel welcome, that they feel heard, that they feel safe, so that they can feel home.
Thank you. Bill Miller.
It's the mission of our Human Relations Advisory Committee to promote positive relations among all members of our community and strives to improve the relations among all members of the community. Thank you for your efforts regarding this issue so far. While the Boise's resolution for renouncing hate groups is sound, for me, it's not the words, but the actions that is most important. By educating our children, adults, and other groups, and learning about each other's stories and struggles, no matter who or what the struggles may be, we can help elevate the hatred that we can help alleviate the hatred that others have within our community. We need to make sure that we can walk a mile in someone else's shoes and understand their situations before we act or react to situations or to people, regardless of race, religion, color, and others. Thanks.
Thank you. Linda Lurick.
I think this is a really important issue, and it's one that I care deeply about, and I've been focused on as a council member for our city, but also with a lot of the nonprofit groups that I work with. The issue of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and just becoming better about those things. One of the things I'm very proud of, and this came through the Human Relations Advisory Committee, was a welcoming resolution that Pocatello passed, the City Council passed, in 2020, so last year. I was the council liaison to the HRAC, and worked with them on getting this started. And the chair at the time worked with another woman to draft this resolution, and they brought it to the council, and we passed it last year. And this is about stating that we are a welcoming city, and it's about welcoming, supporting, and encouraging diversity and inclusion. So I think that's an important statement, but then we need to go beyond words and put that into action. Partnering with the police, which Josh mentioned, is a really important way, reaching out to our community, helping people. And I think I need to stop, so I will. Thank you.
Kathleen Lewis.
I believe that working with some of our existing groups, such as Too Great for hate and all under one roof to promote understanding and acceptance of all people is a good partnership. I also believe working with law enforcement to ensure that they have the tools necessary to de-escalate incidents. And I'm very proud of what our law enforcement has done with some of our marchers and supported that. A resolution against hate groups would be good, but it's only a beginning. Public dialogue and discussion led by the Human Relations Advisory Committee would hopefully open people's understanding and acceptance of the rich diversity that we have in Pocatello. Thank you.
Thank you. That completes the questions for this forum. Now we will allow each candidate to have 2 minutes. 2 minutes for a closing statement and perhaps anything that you wanted to include in any of the questions but did not have time. And we will start the closing statements with Bill Miller.
Thank you. For my closing statement, I would just like to say, I think that we have problems here in Pocatello, but I think we have a wonderful community with a lot of assets. And I am proud to be able to have lived here for the past 60 years or so and raised my entire family here. I'm grateful for the employment that I have. I'm grateful for the people of this community and for the support that they have of other people for the most part. As far as the city council goes, they talk about growth. And mainly the mayor talks about growth. Well, 3.8% when the average is 14% is not acceptable in my part. If we want to see growth, we need more action. We need more work. We need to utilize what we have, find better ways to utilize those things, to balance the budget, to get taxes down so that people are willing to come to this city and enjoy all of the wonderful assets that we have around us. We are a wonderful community with open arms. But right now, with the tax base that we have, we don't have open arms. We have an open hand to those people because we're pretty much saying, we don't want you here just because of what we're balancing. I understand that this is a wonderful community. I understand, and I am committed to this community. And I would ask for you to help me make this place even better than it is now, for now and for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Lyric.
Oh, gosh. The camera is not cooperating. Thank you for holding this forum tonight. I just want to repeat that. I would like to continue to work on the city council. I think that we've accomplished a lot together. And if I'm reelected, I will continue to listen and to work with everyone in Pocatello, including community members, other leaders, and our staff to move our city forward in a positive direction. I will always be professional, and I'll approach my role on the council with fairness, decency, common sense, and empathy. I'll continue to take a constructive, solutions-oriented team approach to my role. And I will continue to take a balanced, reasonable approach to budgeting and to support our employees in that process. They're part of that balance. I have the professional and leadership experience and skills to serve you, and I'm committed to investing in our city and our people, to managing our resources and our assets wisely, and to supporting responsible economic development, particularly sustained by healthy community partnerships, I would say with ISU, with the school district, and with the business community. I think those partnerships are critical to our success. So one of the key things I think is investment in our community, and keep building on our momentum and moving forward. Thank you very much. I'm going to end there.
Thank you. Kathleen Lewis?
Pocatello is a wonderful community. We have with a rich history of diversity and a great work ethic. I know that I can serve the citizens well because of my broad background in economic development, organizational management, and budgeting. Running an organization for 20 years, a nonprofit, has given me the skills to understand human resources, human relations, and budgeting. I work well with all groups. I can facilitate productive discussion to resolve issues. I want to ensure positive, sustainable growth so all of our residents have the opportunity for good jobs, affordable housing, and great city services. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh Mansfield.
Our goal here tonight, and in our work as city council members, candidates, and community members, isn't to build a city, but to build a community, one that people feel that they can thrive in, that they feel like is their home. But in doing so, we have to ensure that we're investing not just in the way our city looks now, but in the community that we desire for the future, that we're investing in our potential. This doesn't just mean spending money. It means rolling up our sleeves and working side by side, doing our own part to help further this community, to actualize the potential of Pocatello. But as we work side by side with members of our community, we bring us along farther in the path of progress. We've made enormous gains over the past decade, and I believe that the next decade is even brighter. But in order to do so, we have to ensure that we aren't cutting Pocatello off at the knees. We must continue to invest wisely, continue to work hard, and create partnerships that are designed around sustainability and longevity. My vision for Pocatello is a uniting vision as well. I'm endorsed by the police union, fire union, Central Labor Council, and dozens of business owners, because it's one that goes across political spectrum or occupation. It's a vision that is designed around people, around business, and around community. I come to you tonight asking respectfully for your vote, because when you vote for me, it's not just a vote for my platform. It's a platform that has been developed through hours of discussion and solutions that come from everywhere from city employees to everyday citizens. A vote for me is an advocate for our community members and solutions of and by the people. They are solutions that were brought to me out of real people who have a desire to see the potential of Pocatello actualized as well. Your vote for Mansfield is a vote for potential, and I hope to see you on November 2nd.
Thank you. Well, that ends our closing statements. And so we will let you know now, recordings of tonight's forum will be available for on-demand viewing. Links will be posted on the League's website at lwvid.org. League is always open to new members of all genders. Membership information can be found at this site. Remember to vote November 2nd. Early voting at the Bannock County Elections Office has already started and will end on Friday, October 29th. For more information, visit vote411.org, the League's go-to election site, or the Bannock County Elections Office at bannockcounty.us/elections/. The Pocatello League is grateful to the candidates and League members who made this forum possible. Thank you for joining us tonight.